In the days of ancient Rome, mighty gladiators would fight, entertaining and distracting us peasants with glorious, fun violence. And it was so fun that we just kind of kept on doing it, but in a different way. Less people died, and more people got to see these gladiator celebrities because, it was on TV. The TV was invented, bringing these warriors into the living rooms of little boys all over the world in a non-creepy way. They were big, they were strong, they were tough, they were manly. They were all the things that we're not supposed to look up to anymore, but you know what? You can't help it. Fuck them all. They were all awesome and cool. And one was so cool, he was cold. Stone cold. That's right, Mr. Steve Austin. A guy with many names.
Superstar, Stunning, the Ringmaster, the Texas Rattlesnake, Beer Drinker, Hellraiser, and of course, Stone Cold. And there's probably some I'm not remembering right now.
He rose to fame after defeating Jake the Snake Roberts, somehow taking the Bible and turning it against him, taking John 3:16 and making it Austin 3:16. Whatever that means.
Talk about your Psalms, talk about John 3:16. Austin 3:16 says I just whipped your ass.
But I've seen it on a lot of t-shirts, so it must mean something important. But yeah, that infamous fight between Steve Austin and Jake the Snake, it paved the way for a revolution in the WWF. And from there out, Stone Cold Steve Austin would take what was his. But that's hardly the bottom line. So yeah, let's find out. What the f*** happened to Stone Cold Steve Austin?
That's all I got to say about that.
But to truly understand what the f*** happened to Stone Cold Steve Austin, we must begin at the beginning, and the beginning began when he was born on his birthday. 1964, Austin, Texas. That's right, Austin.
If that's what you think, I got two words for you.
Steve Austin was born in Austin, but his birth name is Steve Anderson. Dreams of being a football player were sidelined after an injury, but fortunately, Austin had access to regional pro wrestling. And after bouncing around low-level promotions and studying under anybody he could, Austin hit the mat for WCW in 1991, winning the World Television Championship and United States Championship soon after. Here, he was already stunning Steve Austin, changing his name from Steve Williams because Dr. Death already used it. He also had a run as one member of the Hollywood Blondes alongside Brian Pillman, leading the tag to titles in 1993. But his run would be short, getting fired in 1995, while he was out with an injury he suffered in Japan, a common stop for wrestlers at the time. Clearly, the WCW didn't know who or what they had, and neither did the WWF, joining the promotion in 1995 as
the Ringmaster.
An awful gimmick where he held the $1 Million Championship, a meaningless, practically non-competitive belt that was given to him. But congratulations anyway. But of course, Austin would never merely receive. He would have to take. But first, he had to shave his head. In 1996, he went completely bald and had a match at WrestleMania XI, which was his first at the storied event. By this time, he would go as Stone Cold, a moniker inspired by a real-life killer, the Iceman, who I think Michael Shannon played in a movie, and I think it was really good when I watched it. The next year, Stone Cold Steve Austin won his first Royal Rumble, stealing his victory after having already been thrown over the top rope. He would win again the following year and once more in 2001, becoming the only person to win the contest 3 times. He next launched into his first notable feud with Bret Hart, hitting its peak at WrestleMania 13, in what is widely considered one of the greatest matches in WWF and WWE history. WWTF. That night, a bloody star was born. The villain had become the face, the seller of merchandise, the name on all those homemade signs. It was a beautiful thing. It really shows how much power character and charisma have in this business. that you'll get regular, ordinary, good people to root for a bad guy because he's badass. Or good ass. Or good badass. Austin's next high-profile match came at WrestleMania XIV, winning his first title against Shawn Michaels, not long after having the balls to give Mike Tyson the middle finger. That's the naughty one. This was the Austin era. We had entered into the Stone Age, and it was cold, but in a cool way. Advised him after a botched pile driver at the SummerSlam 1997. But yes, Austin still won, because when you give him a stinger, he still takes the win. Vince McMahon would not let him wrestle and forced him to vacate the Intercontinental Championship, thus launching perhaps the greatest feud in WWE history. And it started with a Stone Cold Stunner. As much as it was the Austin era, it was also the Attitude Era, the same one that would soon enough end the WCW. That's right, Stone Cold was embarrassing his current boss, while simultaneously ruining his old one. Austin going after McMahon and those who wronged him let every lower and middle class man not only vicariously give the middle finger, the naughty one, to their boss, if they had a shitty boss. This man was a hero to the masses. Somebody who could get away with flipping off authority, chugging beers while on the job, yes, they were all real, and doing what he wanted when he wanted. This was the star the WWF needed. We hadn't seen this type of athletic performer since Hulk Hogan. Everybody knew who he was. Even people that didn't follow wrestling. They're like, yeah, Stone Cold. Thumbs up. He was very famous. But there was an alleged dark side to Stone Cold Steve Austin too. In 2002, domestic abuse charges against Austin's wife were reportedly covered up by the WWE, which we all know now has been doing this kind of stuff for decades. It would end in divorce, while he would also be later accused of assaulting another girlfriend. He would plead no contest. And even with those horrible revelations, it hasn't tarnished Stone Cold's reputation. Like, nobody seemed to really care and everybody just moved on. Teaming again with McMahon as part of the Alliance faction. Soon, and sure enough, Austin grew truly unhappy with the creatives in 2002, snubbing a new storyline that had him lose to one of the future faces of WWE, Brock Lesnar, knowing he was far better than being pinned on network TV with no story and not enough money attached. So he left, with contempt for the WWE and a newfound reliance on alcohol. This is what happens when you try to give Austin material. His character gets warped and watered down. It's no wonder one of his mottos,
"Don't trust anybody,"
stemmed from his real life. Today, however, we can't help but welcome his special guest referee spots and cameos, because they always end how they should, with a can of whoop-ass. And so, Stone Cold tried out acting, making his big screen debut with 2005's The Longest Yard remake, before landing supporting or lead roles in some theatrical but mostly DTV shite.
He was in stuff like The Condemned, Damage, The Expendables, The Stranger, Hunt to Kill, Recoil, Knockout, Tactical Force, Maximum Conviction, The Package, Grown Ups 2.
There was also an arc on Nash Bridges from 1999 to the year 2000, and a strange one-off on the show Chuck. On the small screen, Steve Austin actually kind of thrived in reality competition shows, with stuff like
Tough Enough, Redneck Island,
and
Steve Austin's Broken Skull Challenge.
In 2009, Stone Cold was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. While in 2013, he launched a podcast, because everybody's got a podcast now. And in 2022, he returned for a no-holds-barred beating of Kevin Owens at WrestleMania 38, beating the man who borrowed his finisher. Stone Cold Steve Austin transformed sports entertainment in an insurmountable way, so much so that later eras would have to work with new norms to undo so much of what he did, because he was so good at what he did. And he did a lot, much by his own fist, for better or worse. Look at the circumstances this guy found himself in, and how he not only made them work for Stone Cold, but better the entire industry. Today, Stone Cold Steve Austin is more of an ambassador than a badass, even though he's still that too, having retired from in-ring action, and has lessened his beer intake. And of course, to this very day, he is widely considered one of the greatest, most iconic wrestlers to ever wrestle it up. And you know the cliche, if they made a Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, yeah, his face would be all over that.
His big, beautiful face.
But none of those other iconic wrestling legends had what Stone Cold had, and nobody ever will. So yeah, you can hate on the man all you want, but we all know that when you hear that glass, your ass is grass. Now let me get one of those hell yeahs.
Give me a hell yeah!
So yeah, nobody should give a fuck about what the fuck happened to Stone Cold Steve Austin, cause he's doing just fine.